What is the most unethical but legal way to get rich quick? Selling books about getting rich quick. I knew a guy who was a witch doctor. He charged $25,000 to cast a spell to bring an ex-lover back to you. It never worked, but there was nothing that could really be done for you, as he had all these forms stating that he made no guarantees since the spirit world did what it did. He was very popular too, which I could never understand. Buy demanded and limited things like graphics cards or sneakers, and resell them when they are out of stock. But you're a monster. Using your children for content on YouTube. Mint a NFT and list it for $200. Buy it from yourself, then repost it for $2,000. Buy it from yourself and repost it for $10,000. Repost it for $25,000 plus and wait for someone else to buy it, thinking they're getting a deal on something with skyrocketing value. Repeat. Those of you who live in small towns, what is the current local controversy all about? The eccentric millionaire that owned every building in downtown and used them to house his extensive rock collection died like 15 years ago. And they still haven't figured out what to do with all the rocks. One guy started a home addition without getting the required permitting, then threatened to beat up the mayor when confronted about it. The mayor backed down and let him do it. That spread around town, so others have also threatened the mayor to be able to build shit they shouldn't. So now all the hillbilly types in town are just doing whatever they want with their yards and houses, which is starting to cause problems as they dig and cut various things underground. Because of course they aren't calling to get surveyed for where all the buried infrastructure is. In our small English village, someone has managed to knock over one of the speed limit signs at one end of the road. It's a mystery. Everyone is trying to guess who did it, what happened. Was it intentional? Except it's not a mystery in our house. It was my sister, and she hit it when she swerved out of the way of an oncoming car. Narrow country road. We'll keep acting like we are as clueless as everyone else though. A woman on the city council constantly spouts about cleaning up the admittedly horrible medicine problem in town and goes on sanctimonious rants on social media about it. Her son is the main dealer in town. He lives in her house. It's not a secret at all, and he gets arrested for shit all the time, and she gets him off the hook every time. Full disclosure, I don't live there anymore thankfully, but most of my family does. 3 kids stole shit from the local shop. Weren't even wearing COVID masks, so we have perfect pictures of them. My family thought that the term Karen being used on Facebook specifically meant the woman named Karen that works at the gas station near me. I had mentioned her once at home and my mom was like, oh, everyone hates her on Facebook right now. They all think she's a snitch. It's a crazy statistic. You are more likely to be bitten by a stranger in New York City than by a shark anywhere else in the nation. You are more likely to be killed by a vending machine than by a shark. What we can learn from this is that strange vending machines in NYC should be avoided at all costs. More energy from the sun hits Earth every hour than the planet uses in a year. 1/3 of adults still sleep with a comfort object. Statistics show that men have about a 1 in 2 chance of developing cancer during their lifetime, while women have a 1 in 3 chance. That's effing terrifying. 39% of the world's population is overweight, and that number is only getting bigger. According to the FBI, there are currently more than 25 active serial killers in the US. 1 in 3 Australians will be diagnosed with a skin cancer by the time they're 70. Edit, typo. It's actually 2 in 3. The global rate for washing hands after using the toilet is under 20%. You gross Fs. How you are more likely to die in your bathtub than a roller coaster. That you can fit all the planets in our solar system between the Earth and the Moon and still have some room spare. Mind blown. Do you feel unsafe or like the world is an increasingly dangerous place, locally and or internationally? You're wrong. The world today is the safest it has ever been from violent crime and war, and it only continues to get better. Which Mandela effect messed your head up the most? The Monopoly guy not having a monocle. Pikachu's tail having a black end. Pikachu doesn't have that. Fruit of the Looms not having a cornucopia really throws me off still. I could have swore it did. The fact that there is no record of Tinkerbell ever appearing in the beginning of Disney movies, drawing the logo, and dotting the I with her wand before flying off screen. Apparently Kit Kat has no hyphen. C-3PO has 1 silver leg. Every costume gets this wrong. The idea that we don't know Spider-Man's true identity. I swear I remember Spidey's name, but I just can't remember. Caused the house fire which killed my brother 5 years ago. When I was 15, I had some of my friends over while I was watching my 11-year-old brother. My parents worked a night shift and I had to babysit him often, which I did not mind because I'd usually bring my friends over, and my brother wouldn't care really. It was around 10 p.m. and it was on a Friday and my brother was asleep, so we wanted to have some fun. So one of my friends brought over grass. We were in my room and one of my friends knew how to block the smell of the grass with this thing he made that would block the grass smell so we could smoke in the house. After we all ended up getting high, we decided we wanted to chill in the basement. We were down there for around 15 minutes. Eventually we wanted to go up to my room again. When we opened the basement door, the whole house was foggy and smelled like smoke, and I could see the fire spreading to our downstairs living room area since our house was 2 stories. I grabbed my phone and I opened the exit of the basement door, and me and my friends ran out as quickly as possible while I called 911. My brother was upstairs sleeping and all I could remember was just crying, coughing and being so dizzy from the shock and the smoke. I called my parents too and they rushed home and they got here after the ambulance and firefighters. When my parents got home the fire in the house was gone and I remember the paramedics rushing my brother on a stretcher into the ambulance. My mom went in the ambulance with my brother and my dad drove us to the hospital. We found out most of his body had third-degree burns and he was unstable and unconscious due to the smoke. I was not allowed to see my brother while I was there and I had to keep waiting for my mom and dad to tell me everything was okay. My parents and I stayed at the hospital all night and a little into the morning, and eventually my mom and dad came out, because they were allowed to see him, to tell me that he was passing away due to the smoke inhalation. After our house was investigated for what could have started the fire we were told that it started in my room and they found a metal lighter. I remember bursting into tears telling my parents why I had a lighter in my room and what happened and I remember saying it was all my fault. To this day I still feel the worst amount of guilt for what happened. And my parents have told me so many times that I didn't know that this would happen. They said they weren't angry with me but I still feel like they had some sort of anger towards me at that moment. The house was completely gone and we were lucky we had insurance and were even able to afford a new one. I'm 20 now, and I go to college and have a part-time job. But the guilt still haunts me so much and I think about how my brother would have gone on to do amazing things. I know deep down that it wasn't completely my fault and that I didn't know this would happen. But it still did. My mom and dad tell me all the time that they aren't angry with me and that I was young and didn't know that this would have happened. What is a supernatural event that happened in your life that just cannot be explained? One night I had a dream about my grandpa who had died almost 20 years prior. We were in his home, and he kept telling me we need to clean the house. We need to get the house ready. When I asked him why, he just said she's coming home. My grandma, his wife of 50 years, died the next day. Working as night security for a small office at a sanitation plant. Building was a single entrance and you had to check in at the security station to get in or out. A worker shows up and checks in saying he needs to take care of a few things and grab some stuff. So I check in his ID and flip a few lights for him then go back about my business. Fast forward a few hours and my shift is about to end. I still haven't seen the guy come back. So I go patrol the building to find him and literally can't find him anywhere. He's not in any of the areas I turned lights on for him. No other lights are on. And he's not in any other rooms. I stop by security to see if we just missed each other and he's trying to leave, but nobody is there. I do a second patrol and still no signs. At this point I went to check cameras to see where he went, but he's not on a single camera except the one covering the entrance and security station. He turns down a hallway and never shows up on the next camera down said hall. At this point I logged it as an incident, and GTFO right as the relief shift showed up. Next day my boss calls me and says that worker had been on vacation out of state for several days, and wouldn't return for several more. Nobody could offer any explanation to what happened. Imagine finally having a decent out-of-body experience and you end up at work instead of like some tropical beach. Poor man astral planed into work while on vacation. That's some job dedication there. What would be the scariest message humanity could receive from outer space? Stop transmitting, they will hear you. Just a distress signal on permanent repeat. Then another one a few years later, then another one, then another 10, then thousands. Then they all just stop. We are sorry, we weren't able to stop them. Just a countdown timer with no other context. You are the last, be better than us. Children laughing, but it's definitely 100% absolutely guaranteed to be coming from near the center of the galaxy. My 5-year-old son broke character and talked to me like an adult. This happened about 2 years ago and I was so blown away I took notes and told my wife about it. So I still have the notes on my phone. My 5-year-old son was pretty typical for his age, always goofing around, never serious, always working some angle to negotiate treats or buying whatever thing was at the top of his list this week. Kids have a selfish worldview and that's mostly understandable because they haven't matured yet. So when my son asked me to go for a walk just the two of us, I immediately laughed and thought okay, what's he going to ask for? We start walking and I ask what's on your mind buddy? He said nothing really, I just want to have some time to be with you and be peaceful and be out in nature. Wow okay, this is progress I thought. Then he said I want you to know you're the best dad I've ever had. You really do help me and my sister a lot and you're really very nice, even though we don't usually tell you. So I just wanted to say thank you for everything and that I want to be near you always. By this point, the only reason I wasn't completely crying my eyes out is that I thought it was some kind of a joke or lead up to ask for something. This was totally out of character especially at this age. I managed to croak out something like I'm really glad to hear that and I love you very much. Then we just enjoyed the rest of the walk. It really felt like for a moment I was speaking to a soul who has had several lives. You're the best dad I've ever had. And wanted to speak directly to me instead of play the role of a child. I'm so glad it happened and it's something I will never forget. Later he went right back to being the same old goofy kid that I love. Teachers, what's the darkest thing you've seen from a student? Our school had a selective mute kid that graduated last year. Kids were calling him Fish Boy. It turns out he was buying fish and killing them in various ways on Instagram based on people's requests in the comments. In elementary school we had a kid with a severe peanut allergy and a teacher caught some kids rubbing peanut butter on the opening of his water bottle. We also had a kid who could describe in detail about how to prepare bubble gum. I taught welding and metal sculpture at the high school level for a year. One morning, one of my students, a quiet, awkward, but really nice young man, came into class and asked me for a band-aid. I asked him what for and he replied that it was for a burn. Class hadn't started yet for the day. He showed me and it was a fresh second-degree burn that was already blistering. It was in the shape of an A. Some kids, if I'm going to be honest, they were bottom performers and troublemakers. From a different class of mine had swiped a small metal letter A from one of my supply bins, heated it with a lighter, and then branded this kid on the morning school bus. He had let the kids do it because he really wanted to fit in. He didn't have many friends and these kids had seemed cool because they were always acting out. As a mandatory reporter, I reported it. The police got involved. Other than that I have no idea what else happened. I had a kid who really wanted his parents to come to his graduation ceremony, but they were both sex offenders and couldn't be on campus. He just wanted someone there to support him. Not a teacher, but in my 5th grade class this autistic kid that had a crush on this girl decided to make his move. They sat on the same table in English, so the autistic kid stands up on top of the table and takes his pants down and shakes his ass for not only the girl, but for everyone in the whole classroom to see. The kid got suspended and surprisingly the girl didn't leave the school but she was crying of embarrassment.